Welcome to a special edition of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton. I have the honor and privilege of representing Simsbury in the Connecticut General Assembly, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to provide the citizens of Simsbury with a legislative highlights and update on all the great things that we accomplished this year in the state legislature. My guest today is my friend and colleague, State Representative Joe Aresimowicz, who also happens to be the majority leader. Welcome, Representative Aresimowicz.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great to
Appreciate
have you
this.
here today, and we've known each other a long time, and have high regard for you, and you're a great leader and a great state representative within your own district. You represent the 30th district. And I thought you could give folks who are watching kind of some background information on where you were born and went to school.
Sure.
And I know you have a rich history in Berlin, and how you got into politics.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still a young man, right? Only
Yes.
43 years old, but I
Yes.
was born and raised in Berlin. It's been the town I grew up in. It's the town I love. So I'm really lucky, like you, to represent that town. I got involved in politics. I never thought I would, first of all. And you know, I had a parent. My son was in middle school, saw some issues going on in town. I figured, geez, you know, we could do things differently. And so instead of talking about it, I decided to do that. So I ran for and won my seat on the town council in 1999.
Okay.
And I stayed on the town council for 5 years, and then I came up to the General Assembly in 2004. So since then, I've had many positions, vice chair of a couple committees, Veterans Committee, very near and dear to my heart, and you and others elected me as your majority leader the last session. So that's my privilege and honor now, is to not only serve the 30th district, but also serve all of you state representatives that represent your districts.
30th district is Berlin, Kensington, and Southington, right?
And a piece of Southington,
okay.
Yeah. The district was 50-50 at one
Yep.
point. It's predominantly Berlin now, but I still retained, I really wanted to retain a piece of Southington. I was lucky enough to do that.
And you mentioned veterans. You are a veteran yourself.
I am. I was in the United States Army Reserve.
Thank you so much for your service.
No,
I know
no
you've
problem.
been a great advocate on behalf of veterans issues. I always like to talk to people at home and educate citizens, especially our young people, on a lot of terms we use that people at home might not understand. The majority leader. When Speaker Sharkey was on my show, he talked about the responsibilities of the speaker. Can you tell folks what the majority leader does and what that position entails?
Sure. So within the chamber, you have the Speaker of the House, who's really in charge of the whole chamber. And then you'll have the minority leader, which happens to be now Representative Cafaro. He represents his members on the other side of the aisle. And I'm the majority leader. And that's just by simple numbers of how many legislators there are. So we have 97 members, which gives us the majority. So I act as that majority leader. And really what I am is the person that keeps the trains running on time. I ensure that there's bills to bring up on the House floor that have been vetted through the process. I ensure that the committee chairs are ready to bring those bills out to have the debate on the House floor. I also ensure that the votes are there to get the bill passed. The last thing we'd want to do is bring a bill up on the House floor, debate it for hours and hours. We have some long debates, as you know.
Yeah.
I think our record this year was about 8 hours.
Correct.
And then not have the votes. The hearing process and the deliberative process, which happens in the committees, that's what that process is for. When it comes to the House floor, we'll have the debate and the discussion, but we should pretty much know, at least for our side of the aisle bringing out the bills, that the votes are either there or pretty close to being there. So that's part of my job.
And you do it well. I always use the analogy that the speaker is kind of like the principal of a school, and you're the dean of students.
Yeah.
And but watching you on the House floor is pretty incredible, because people think that we are very ultra partisan in the state of Connecticut, but I see you, and I do all the time, going over to the other side of the aisle, talking to the minority leader, really negotiating, listening, and that's how we get things done. And that's to your talent and strengths. You know how to work with people of all different, and it's not always bad. I mean, sometimes it's heated and passionate, but at the end of the day, you know, I see you sitting there with Larry Cafaro, just really trying to work it out.
Yeah, and to your credit too, John, I have to tell you, I saw you over there more times than any other freshman typically. I mean, your knowledge of the building, I think, really helped you, and you understood what it took. Yeah, I mean, here in Connecticut, we are different, far different than what you see going on in Washington. We actually not only encourage but embrace the other side to come up to us with
Sure.
ideas on how to make the bills better. We don't have those typical knockdown, drag out, threaten to shut down fights. We want to work with each other. There's certain issues that are just hot button issues to our core beliefs that, yes, we're going to have that 8-hour debate. But average business, like you did this year with the water bill,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that took a lot of work outside of the normal legislative channels, and you did that. So as much as you've seen me over there, I've seen you over there quite
Yeah.
frequently too.
Well, it's really exciting to work a bill through the process, and I'm really proud of the comprehensive statewide water plan that you helped me put together in a bipartisan way, and protect the Farmington River and make
Yeah.
sure that the state is prepared in terms of our water, quality of our water. Um, Provide me, maybe from your perspective, some of the highlights of this session, the successes, in terms of the budget and the economy. We did a lot of good things. I think we accomplished a lot.
We did, and you know, I tend to be a positive person by nature, but I think right now it's rightfully so. I think Connecticut's really doing well. We're on the road to recover. We all need to remember Connecticut typically goes into a recession a little later and takes a little longer to come out. That's just how it's always happened. But you look at the jobs we've added, I think, it's over 60,000 new jobs.
Yeah.
The amount of companies now, thanks to the legislation we passed these previous two sessions, we went from, in 2004 to 2009, helping just short of 100 companies or so, to, in the 4 years so far, we're up to over 1,300
Yeah, it's great.
businesses. Those are the type of things we're doing. You know, when you're out door knocking and talking to your constituents, they're telling you the economy. We acted on it.
Sure.
You look at the deal we struck with Pratt & Whitney, UTC.
Absolutely. That's huge.
The investments they're going to make in our economy, and not only from what they're doing, but the spin-off businesses, the small and medium manufacturers that are doing work for them. That's money going into our economy. Those are the type of things we need to be doing.
You know, and I know we established the Port Authority,
Yep.
which is great. We're maximizing the use of our ports. We streamlined a lot of cumbersome business regulations. The other day, I just sponsored a Step Up conference in Simsbury, and it was great attendance from businesses taking advantage of the programs that so many of them don't know exist, like the Small Business Express program and initiatives and tax credits for hiring veterans. And so while we're still in a difficult, challenging economic times, I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of our economy. So,
and you and I have talked about this before too, is we're listening. We're listening to what the folks are saying. The other issue I've heard so many times is even with the small and medium manufacturers that they can't find the workers. So what we did is reach out to the community colleges, our technical schools, and outside providers, Goodwin College being one of them. Let's come up with a program to where if there's jobs there, let's ensure that we're getting people trained to receive those jobs. So that's something we didn't do before. You know, for 20-some years, I think the Connecticut economy we just thought would always be there. And we've had to adjust our game plan, and we're doing it very well.
A priority I know I mentioned earlier as a veteran for you is, and for me as a legislator, are veterans issues. You know, we can't thank our veterans enough and can't do enough for our veterans. And this year I know we made some strides, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about what we're doing for vets in terms of jobs and making sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah, so you mentioned it, the Veteran Step Up program, which is offsetting the wages for an employer who hires a veteran for, I think it's the first 6 months, and it may even go to a year, putting more money into that. We've done that. But the one we spent a lot of time talking about was the military occupational skills.
Yeah.
So what was happening was veterans were coming home, and they had certain set of skills that they learned in the military, and it wasn't coming over to the private sector. The state of Connecticut wasn't recognizing their training. It was quite personal for me when I came home with medical training. I came home figuring, hey, I'll be an X-ray tech, I'll work on an ambulance, I'm certified, and the state of Connecticut said, no, we don't recognize any of that training, good luck on finding a job. So we took a huge step this year, especially in the area of trades and other ones that the state of Connecticut is going to recognize. and appreciate the value of the training they received in the military. And when we stood in the front of the room that day you were there over with
Sure.
us, and we had the veterans standing in front with us talking about how this could possibly change their life, that's what we need to be doing.
Yeah, it's a great accomplishment, and more veterans that come home, younger veterans, we need to support them.
Yeah.
So it's one issue. I'm on the aging committee, as you know, and I'm really concerned about senior citizens and the tsunami, they call it, in the next 10, 20 years, the senior population. I have older parents. You have older parents. We're starting the role of caregiving, and you know, I want to make sure that we're doing all we can on the aging committee. We did some great initiatives this year in terms of enhancing our aging in place initiatives. Last year I introduced the Alzheimer's disease task force bill, which was my first bill, which creates a task force on Alzheimer's disease to implement a plan to be prepared for the emotional, the healthcare aspects, the economic impact of Alzheimer's disease. And some of the task force recommendations are coming out. We're putting them into putting them into action. But I think we're doing a lot of good things for older folks. I'm also meeting a lot of senior citizens who don't want to retire. They want to be part of the workforce. And I know we passed a bill that makes it easier for older folks to gain employment. So I think we're making inroads for seniors, which, as you know, is so critical.
Oh yeah, and the need is there. The numbers tell us that within the next 10 years, we're going to have a retired population that's only 70%, or 70% of them are going to be retiring only with Social Security.
Yeah.
So that means only 30% actually have invested and are prepared for retirement. So we need to ensure that if they want to work or they need to work, we put as many structures into place to help them do that.
You put forward legislation on a plan,
Yeah.
Retirement savings program, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Can you talk about that? I know we
Sure.
didn't get as far as you wanted on that. What did that entail?
So basically it's recognizing that we have a problem, that 70% of our population are going to retire with only Social Security. The average Social Security is right around $16,000 a year. Minimum wage is actually 18 plus. So we're saying that our retirees go ahead and retire, and you can make do with $15,000, $16,000. It's just not fair. So that was the problem. So we said, what can we do about it? Number one, we need to encourage savings at younger age groups. I talked about a college student. That's the ideal age. You're getting out of college. We know you have student loans, but you should be putting a little bit away. So to bring some education about the importance of savings to the table. The other aspect was to either encourage private industry or have the state really start a retirement program that would be pre-tax dollars, so you'd want it to have the preferential tax status, have it be a payroll deduction, because people don't realize it. It's quite astounding. If you're able to do it through payroll deduction, it's about 75% will participate. With no payroll deduction, it drops down to 8%.
Wow, incredible.
So that's an aspect that we think it needs to have. So the private sector has some programs that we think are really great. It's just the fees are really high right now. It's anywhere from 3 to 5%. So we said, come to the table with the state of Connecticut as your partner. Let's see if we can get the fees down below 2%, hopefully below 1%. So the money coming in from the individuals goes back to them on their retirement. So we did, it's not really a task force, it's a little bit more than a task force that's going to go out and work with the private sector to see if we can come up with those programs.
Great, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it should be great.
The budget, let's talk about the budget. I was really happy that we did not raise taxes, that we actually were able to bring home more monies to our municipalities. Simsbury received more monies, which is great, including monies for a new senior center. And I know municipalities, as you know, are overly burdened. And so give me your perspective on the budget and where we are and how you feel about it. And I know it's always a tough process, and we're in difficult straits, but I think overall we're in good shape.
So let's go back a little bit, both of us being former municipal officials. I remember in 2003 passing a budget only to find out about a month later that we were getting less from the state than we originally anticipated, and what dire straits that placed us in. I think what we've been able to do is hold municipalities harmless. In the case this year, some municipalities received some extra money, which is great, but barring that, we at least kept flat funding, which is absolutely crucial. You look at what's happening in other states, and other governors are balancing their budgets on the backs of the municipalities. So I've always said, and we've had the discussion, that at least be true to the people. If you're going to raise taxes, raise taxes. Don't cut the municipality so they raise taxes and we could sit up here and say we didn't raise taxes.
Exactly.
That's the easy way out. So we had a great budget. We preserved the services. We preserved the funding for the municipalities so they didn't have to raise taxes, and we didn't raise taxes ourselves. We've made a lot of streamlining to state government, which is really important. I think we're about 1,500 less state employees than we were 4 years ago. We had over 70 departments. We're down to 50-something. So we're doing exactly what folks said to me and probably said to you. You know, we're okay. If you have to raise taxes and it's the last resort, fine, but make sure you're doing other steps in the meantime. We've done those steps, and we're better for it. And the budget is indicative of our priorities, right? That's what I always say. Don't just look at the budget as dollar amounts. Let's talk about the programs next to those dollar amounts to see if they match what you believe in.
Seniors, all the programs that
all
folks rely on.
Crucial services.
All of our citizens. The good news for me, and I work with a great First Selectman, Mary Glassman, and
the best First Selectman.
The best. And Simsbury actually decreased their taxes this year, and so that's great. And so Simsbury is in good shape, but we're always vigilant and working on all cylinders, trying to make sure that our schools are taken care of, our seniors, public safety. You know, I'm on the public safety subcommittee on security, and we did some great things in terms of enhancing school security in the wake of Sandy Hook, that we increased security, mental health initiatives. I know we made great strides. We can't stop working on that in the wake of Sandy Hook, and beyond that, mental health is a huge issue affecting all walks of life, and I know we're making some great progress on that.
And you breezed over. I mean, we talked. I said the best, right? You're Mary Glassman. But what's really powerful, especially to someone in leadership like me, is watching you and Mary work the legislative process together.
Sure.
The relationship that you have with her, the ability that you have to fight as a team when you're protecting the interests of the town. I mean, that was pretty cool too. And having a partner in the legislative process like her is just amazing. But you embracing it. I see so many times, so many state reps don't see the value in bringing their local official up. You embrace it, and it was really cool to watch.
Well, as a former selectman, and you as a former, you know how important that partnership is, and be mindful and working with your local officials, whatever party they are.
That's right.
And it's great that Mary is such a presence here at the Capitol. Talk about your best moment, your favorite moment as majority leader so far, and your worst moment.
So my favorite moment was it was a bunch of moments. It was this session, though. I said earlier, part of my job is really keeping the trains running on time, making sure the flow of business moves, and making sure your priorities, you come and sit with me, tell me what your priorities, and we get them passed. So this year, we go late into the night sometimes. So this year we only had 2 nights past midnight. So it was a responsible hour. We weren't passing legislation on little sleep.
Correct.
And at midnight when we adjourned, I had no more bills to do. So all the bills that we originally had agreed to do and found common ground, found compromise, as you did with yours, we passed. So I didn't keep us here terribly late. We had a reasonable, responsible schedule, and we did the people's business in a timely fashion. That was my greatest moment. You know, some of the more one of the difficult moments I had really was a few years ago when we were doing a piece of legislation in the House. It happened to be a labor bill at the time, and the truth just wasn't being told. The questions were coming up, and it was a total political slant. And I went over to an individual member, and I said, "Hey, you know that's not true. I can get you the information on that." And they said, "Well, It doesn't have to be. We're having a debate, and I'm just saying what I think needs to be said. I said, but the truth matters. They said, well, not this time.
Mm.
So for me, that was just like one of the most disappointing moments, because I will say 99.9% of our members up here, and it is a special place regardless of political party,
absolutely.
are here for all the right reasons. And this individual member no longer serves up here, but really thought it was more about scoring political points than putting on a proper case for the people.
Mm.
And that was just terribly disappointing to me. Just didn't seem appropriate.
I think one of your best moments, from my perspective, is in the wake of Sandy Hook.
Mm.
You know, none of us envisioned we would be at that point, and it was a very dark time as a freshman. But it was amazing to see our leadership, including the governor, the majority leader, the minority leader, everybody, you as leaders, difficult time addressing this issue and reassuring the nation and the state and working in a bipartisan way to put forward legislation that really makes our nation a safer place while preserving our liberties and protecting our children. So I just want to thank you for your stewardship during that difficult time.
Yeah, probably one of the most emotional things I've had to be through. I came at it from a slightly different angle, right? I in the past have just by my upbringing, my military, you know, I'm more comfortable around weapons. And then you sit with the parents and hear the stories and shed tears with them. It really puts you in a unique place. But you're right. I mean, I probably should have mentioned that. I mean, we talk about reaching compromise. What we did in a bipartisan fashion hasn't been replicated, and I don't know if it will.
And rising to the occasion in a bipartisan, a bipartisan spirit. Now we're going to be going into another session, hopefully.
Yes.
If we return to office, and what are your priorities for next session?
I think we need to continue to evaluate and make changes to what we're doing in higher education.
Yeah.
Especially the partnerships now that we're doing in the area of manufacturing, STEM, through the University of Connecticut, partnering not only with Pratt & Whitney, but ESPN and other areas for digital media. That's a whole new sector. We need to continue to evaluate our current services and make sure they're providing you know, results-based accountability.
Sure.
We're giving these money to provide these services. Are they providing the services necessary? If they aren't, I think we make changes. Education. I mean, it was a bright bit of news that came out of Hartford. Graduation rates are up. That's incredible, and we need to continue to do that. We need to reward districts, Simsbury, Berlin, that are doing an excellent job, to continue to push them down that path, provide them the resources maybe for the AP courses and additional, the talented and gifted programs that too many times get cut in municipal budgets because of the budget crunch. We should be doing more of that. I think we're off to the right grounds, the right direction. I think we may do some little tinkering here and there. And then you have the whole host of bills that typically come up from us spending time on our constituent stores.
Sure.
Those are some of the best bills I've ever received. Hey, what about this? And they tell you of a problem that you've never heard of. And next thing you know, you come up with a piece of legislation that solves that.
I actually introduced and passed a bill this year from a constituent, Chris Drew, who's a lawyer in town, and it was to extend tax relief, senior tax relief for seniors who hold trusts. So we introduced it, went through the committee, and you're right, constituents, and that's why it's so important that we listen and talk to our constituents, make ourselves available, as we both do, through office hours, through shows like this.
Yeah.
I get tons of emails. I meet with constituents. We work for them, and they are the heart and soul of the community. So it's so important, whether it's regarding our schools and our aging. I had one constituent said, well, I wish you would only focus on X. Well, as you know, on any given day, I get emails on everything from genetically modified foods to disabilities issues to Save the Whales, and everybody has their different perspectives. Small businesses, fight for the elderly. Sometimes I look at it, it's like we're in an airplane, and there's this huge dashboard of flashing lights that you and I, as representatives, have to address. I have 23,000 people. We all have around the same people. And everybody has their opinion. Everybody wants to be listened to. And at the end of the day, you filter it all through, and hopefully, with God's help and your expertise and experience, you make the the right decision. So I've been so excited and proud to be Simsbury State Representative. It's almost the end of my freshman term. I'm still a freshman.
Freshman plus.
Freshman
I think
plus.
that's what I said in your local paper. You're the freshman plus because you knew the building.
Yeah.
That was vastly.
Having worked here,
oh, such an
great
advantage.
preparation as a municipal leader.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to have you on my show. So excited to have you as my majority leader, my friend and colleague, who's been such an example. And you're always there for something, a random question or on the House floor. And sometimes I've had to come up to you and tell you respectfully that sometimes a piece of Democratic legislation on your agenda does not necessarily work for my district or my conscience.
That's right.
And you are always so respectful about that and talking me through it, because at the end of the day, I answer to my constituents. And
but you know what's great about you is you take that so seriously. When we do have those discussions, and I think it ended the last time, I think my exact words were, you have 23,000 employers and none of them are me. You need to do what's right by your district. And you said absolutely, and that's what I plan on doing. That you take those opinions to such heart like you do, and really try to, it may not be, you may have a constituent that says, you know, I contacted you and you did the opposite thing. Well, then there's hundreds of constituents that contact you, and you always try to find what you think is the best of the district based upon what you've heard, which you do a good job at that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Majority Leader, Representative Joe. We call him A to Z. So delighted to have him here on my special edition, wrapping up the 2014 session. I want to thank the Simsbury residents. I want to thank the Simsbury Community Television, which is a great resource, all the staff and volunteers who put this together. I want you to call me, email me, phone. I have office hours, and we'll meet with anybody anytime. And I want to again thank my guest, and we'll see you soon on another episode of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you,
that was
Representative.
Great. Oh, no problem.
Thank you so much.